Welcome to A Time of Religion. Oh hey, would you look at that? It's Martin Luther, the local German monk. I see that he is carrying a list of some sorts, and he's now nailing it onto the Castle Church of Wittenberg. Can we zoom into that, please? A bit more. And enhance, enhance again. There we go. 95 reasons why the Catholic Church sucks. Oh, those are some hefty and maybe even legitimate claims against the current regime. Guards, get rid of it. Phew, crisis averted. Let's check up on Martin again. Oh no. Well, at least our Holy Roman Empire is fine. Sir, there's been a massive riot going on that's widely spreading across the entirety of Central Europe. What do we do? Ich habe noch ein Ass im Ärmel. Prost! Historically Facts, Part 3. This moment, without Martin Luther or anyone else knowing, instigated the start of a 120-year series of long conflicts, with a grand finale known as the 30 Years' War. One of the most complex, longest and destructive wars ever in European history. You see, Luther's work essentially split the entire Catholic Church in two. And to make sure we are all on the same page, here are some quick differences between the two. Catholics believe that the Pope has the highest authority in the Church, while Protestants believe that the Bible is the most important source of guidance. Catholics believe in order to be saved and go to heaven, a person needs to have faith in God and also do good things like participating in religious rituals. Protestants, on the other hand, argue that simply having faith in Jesus and in His grace is enough to be saved. This also means that while Catholics have 7 special religious rituals, Protestants only have 2. There are also some other things, but in short, Catholics enjoy the fancy things, while Protestants are a lot simpler. But more importantly, Germans like the ideas that people like Martin Luther and John Calvin preached, and accompanied with the technology also known as the printing press, Protestantism spread rapidly all across Germany and Europe alike. This part of Christian history is also known as the Reformation. The response to the Reformation was very diverse. While countries like England, Scotland, the Netherlands, the Nordic Gang and parts of Switzerland and Germany all adopted Protestant beliefs, the remaining parts of Germany and Switzerland, together with Spain, Italy, France, Portugal, Austria, Poland, Ireland and the Southern European squad, heavily rejected this new branch instead. And by doing so, started the next part of Christian history, also known as the Counter-Reformation. Should be pretty self-explanatory to what happens next. Time to combat those heretics, Spain proudly said as the Spanish Inquisition intensified. But also, let's have a serious look at some of the corruption and questioned ethics the Protestants criticize us on, said many Catholic bishops and theologians who came together during the Council of Trent. And that was a success. The Catholic Church reaffirmed its teachings and clarified the importance of the sacraments, the role of goods in salvation, and everything else the Protestants challenged. But like we have seen with most religious disputes in history, peace is never an option. Tensions kept rising between the countries, but also internally against each other. And nowhere were tensions as high as in the Germanic countries. Even though the Holy Roman Empire was officially a Catholic empire, not all religions were fully Catholic. The Protestant regions came together to establish the Protestant Union, also known as the Evangelical Union, which, by the way, sounds really cool. And in response, the Catholic regions established the slightly lamer named Catholic League. No longer were families both German. They were now Catholic or Protestant. And because of that, Botgert wouldn't be able to date Trui, because she was a filthy Catholic. Instead, he would have been forced to date Griet, since she was a good Protestant girl. I'm sure this example perfectly visualizes how deep and severe the tensions cut at the time. This is John George I, and the lucky boy he was born the eldest son of Duke Christian I of Saxony. In English, that means he was the successor of the Saxony region in the Holy Roman Empire. And for you Americans, it means he was the one to be governor. After John's dad passed away and his uncle who had the same name took reign for a limited time, it was time for Johnny Boy to be the next duke. So, what did he inherit exactly? Oh no. Luck had it that out of the over 300 territories that he could have inherited, he inherited the one with Wittenberg in it. The same city where Martin Luther nailed his one-star review on the door of the church 100 years ago. The same city that was the heart of Protestantism. That must have been stressful for John. I'm sure he will find a perfectly safe and widely accepted coping mechanism to deal with all that horrible stress. For no particular reason whatsoever, let's have a look at the Kingdom of Bohemia. Isn't Prague a beautiful city? The kingdom itself was dominantly Protestant. But in Prague, while the majority was also Protestant, the elites were not. And one day, the Protestants had enough of the Catholic suppression. They stormed the Prague castle and threw 2 Catholic regents and their secretary out of the windows of the chancellery. This, by the way, was not the first time that the people of Prague threw government officials out of buildings. Almost exactly 200 years ago, they did the exact same thing, but then in their local town hall, which back then marked the beginning of the rebellion against the Catholic Church and the ruling elites. I wonder if this time it will also spark something. The 30 Years' War can be split up in 4 phases, with every jump up in phase massively escalating the severity and scale of the entire conflict. So let's zoom in and look at phase 1. The Kingdom of Bohemia, where Catholics just got thrown out of windows by Protestants, was, like said before, predominantly Protestant. That must mean that they will surely win this little rebellion of theirs, right? No, they didn't. As a matter of fact, they were absolutely destroyed. The Catholic League didn't want the Protestant Union to gain more power, so they activated the one who shall not be made fun of. The Habsburgs, also known as the nowadays Swiss. The Habsburgs had a lot of power and territory, not only in the Holy Roman Empire, but also in Spain, Portugal, parts of France and Italy. That's one strong dynasty. How did they achieve that? Well, with 2 simple tricks. Smart marriage proposals and excessive inbreeding so they wouldn't lose it. The Protestant Union, like everyone else in Europe, was pretty wary of them, and no one was stupid enough to risk a direct confrontation with them. That is also why our boy John George decided to stay neutral in this conflict, even though he did provide a little bit of support to the Protestants' cause. Anyway, even though the other Protestant regions sent military support to help the Bohemian rebels, the Habsburgs, together with the Catholic estates, managed to suppress the rebellion and restore peace once more to the Bohemian kingdom. And that is how the 30 Years' War ended in just 7 years. Oh wait, here come the Danish. The Danish, expressing their support for the Protestant Union and thinking that the Habsburgs were easy to beat after their 7-year exhausting war, launched their attack on the Catholic Holy Roman Empire. Needless to say, that didn't go too well. What is needful to say though, is that at this point, our Duke John George I saw an opportunity. The states switched fully Catholic and joined the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire to fight the invading Danish. In the end, Saxony's sedition ended up becoming detrimental to the defeat of the Danish forces. And as a reward for being such a good Catholic boy, John ranked up to the title of Electorate, essentially becoming one of the 7 princes that could choose who the next emperor would be. How fancy. Anyway, that is how the 30 Years' War ended in just 11 years. Oh wait, here come the Swedish. The Swedish, as opposed to the Danish, actually knew how to fight a good old war. The wide use of muskets and smaller cannons made the Swedish a big problem for the Catholic Holy Roman Empire and the Habsburgs army. At this point, Electorate John George I saw an opportunity. Saxony switched fully Protestant and joined the Swedish king Gustavus Adolphus in his war against the Catholics. Exactly why he betrayed the Holy Roman Empire is unclear, but some sources say it's because the emperor's forces kept looting his villages. Initially, the war for the Protestants went well. I mean, it's no surprise really. The Swedish king Gustavus Adolphus was on top of his game. No one could possibly defeat the Gus. Look at me, Catholic. The death of the Swedish king in the Battle of Lutzen and a couple other setbacks caused John to kind of lose faith in the Protestants' rebellion. So back to Catholic the region switched and back to fighting along the Habsburgs he went. That didn't go too well. The Swedish were still really good at warfare, which is why Saxony experienced even more military setbacks. Wait, why is there a baguette here? The French, being done with Habsburg's global power and ready to spread France's influence, declared war on the Habsburgs dynasty, which meant declaring war against Spain, Italy, and against the Holy Roman Empire. Aren't we daring today, France? This is also the exact point in the 30 Years' War, where religion no longer was the sole reason for the war, as power and influence became the prime factor. John, for once, did not switch sides and stayed with the Catholics, where he continuously tried to fend off the Protestants, Swedish and French, with little success. Saxony suffered devastating territorial losses and got run over multiple times. John George, being a kind of opportunistic decision maker, for once couldn't switch or talk his way to the other side. Saxony's population suffered massively, and his economy declined severely. And this might have been a point in his life where drinking became more than a fun thing to do with friends. John drank. Maybe to get rid of the stress, maybe he just liked the taste of German beer. But he drank, and drank, and drank, and eventually, as the story goes, he drank over 20 liters of alcohol on a day. That equals to roughly 80 beers in nowadays packages. When John wanted to get away from it all, he often went and stayed at his private vineyard, where you might have guessed, he made sure to taste and enjoy all the local wine. This excessive drinking earned John the nickname of Bierjurgen, which might sound like a fun nickname to have around the boys. But his wife Magdalena didn't find it funny in the slightest. She worried about the mental health and physical well-being of her husband. Originally, she wanted to confront her husband about it herself, but ultimately decided it would be better if the local pastor tried to talk sense to him instead. So, the following Sunday in church, the pastor preached to John that his excessive drinking was bad and that it was not only hurting him, but also the others around him. John, presumably being a little tipsy, didn't take the pastor seriously and laughed the warning signs away. However, he did appreciate the pastor's good intentions, and to show him his appreciation, donated yearly to the local church. Not with money, not with military power, but simply with wine. And not too much wine, always exactly 49 3/4 barrels of wine. Because he didn't want the pastor to drink too much. What a funny guy he is. Wait, the war is over? Hooray! Turns out, while John was making love with his alcohol problem, the big forces all around Europe started to get kinda tired of all that fighting. After all, it's been 30 long years. So they all came together and signed the Treaty of Westphalia, effectively initiating an era of peace, and massively changing the political map of Europe. What changed? In short, the Holy Roman Empire, together with the Habsburgs, lost their dominant position in Central Europe. And instead, the French became Europe's powerhouse. On top of that, the independence of Switzerland and the Dutch Republic was recognized, and Sweden gained some parts of Germany. But while all the big powers might have enjoyed the results of the war, it's important to note that the peasants were the ones who really had to pay the price. Around half the population of what is nowadays Germany died because of the many battles, famine and diseases. Hey, what happened to perhaps the most drunken character in our whole history? Well, you probably think that he died of alcohol poisoning, but miraculously he did not. He lived healthy, though really fat, till the age of 71, which is a good age around that time. After his passing, his eldest son took over, and slowly but surely the Holy Roman Empire started to crumble throughout the years. This is the story of the deadly 30 Years' War and a drunken boy.